Grown man business, priceless experiences, Napa Valley wine tasting, spoiling my women friends, sitting at the table with millionaires. The narrative is tax loops, accounts offshore squares. It's not allowed.
Welcome back. And if it's your first time coming through, welcome for the first time. Welcome to Coin Gang. My name is Ken Billions, and it's great to have you here because you could be anywhere in the world, but you are rocking with your boy. If you already know how this goes, if you can see me, press 1. And if you can hear me, press 2. And if everything is everything, we're going to do what we do here at Coin Gang. And you know this doesn't happen without you. This doesn't shake without your participation. So I appreciate you allowing me to, I appreciate you allowing me and giving me opportunity to minister to you, to help change your perspective, to talk to you, to be your homie, to be your bro. I appreciate you. We're going to do some real cooking tonight. But first, before I get started, I need your help. I need you to like the video, because when you like the video, it helps the algorithm. Then I need you to share the video, right? Because when you share the video, it helps the algorithm, right? So I need you to let these YouTube streets know that you're rocking with this. I need you to let these Facebook streets to let you know that we rocking with this. So you know my spill. Welcome to Coin Gang, the home of what? Out the box philosophy, right? The number one place for personal development, the place where you leave better than when you came. I appreciate you. I can't do this without you. And you know, this is a safe space for out the box philosophy. You know this. You know what we do. Tonight, I got a great conversation. But before I get in that conversation, I want to tell you to keep your babies close. Please keep your babies close. Keep them close. And be patient with your loved ones, right? Be patient with the people in your life. Be patient. Yeah, so let's do it. Tonight, we're talking about the sign. It's sign of the times. Signs of the times. All right. We are talking about technology is running faster than our legs. The technology is running way faster than our legs is running. And we're going to talk about curvature. We're going to talk about tradition. We're going to talk about generational differences. The topic for today is the curse of the modern man and woman. The curse of the modern woman and the modern man. Both sides are cursed and don't even know it. Both sides have an issue going on and don't even know it. The modern man and the modern woman are in trouble. And I compare it to frogs boiling up in a pot, because both of these groups are in grave danger and they don't even know it. Haven't you heard the term lately, the modern woman? And haven't you heard women talk about men of old? But how would a 25-year-old know a man of old? People from the 20s, not many are left. So when we use terms like the modern man and the modern woman, who are we comparing it to, and how would you know? How would you know how a woman behaved before when you never dated her or you never had her, right? See, you don't know the details of grandmama and grandpapa. So why do we use, right? Why do we use them as a point of reference as if we know the details about grandmama and granddaddy without first understanding the signs of the times according to those generations, right? The environment makes the people what they are. So if you're going to talk about the modern man and the modern woman, you have to first include the environment, because what are people born into, right? Their behavior is going to match the times. Before I get into that, I want to show you why I say that the modern man and the modern woman is in trouble. And our brains is turned off. I want to show you something that you probably never seen before, right? Go right here. Can you see this right here? You see all these numbers? Does anybody know what you're looking at? Now, I want you to know what you're looking at is real-time numbers, right? Now, I'll zoom in so you can see different areas, but understand while the modern man and the modern woman is clashing over ideals and tradition and femininity and marriage and all that, these numbers are occurring. What you are looking at is called a debt clock. Okay. Now I want to blow something up for you so you can see it. Do you see that right there? That number that you see is 28 trillion 822 billion 984 million and counting. That is the US debt. Okay. Right next to it is debt per citizen. Right next to that is debt per taxpayer. So debt per citizen is $86,000. The modern man and the modern woman is not talking about this. You know what the modern man and the modern woman is talking about? Relationships. And those relationships have nothing to do with what is going on in the world, though. As if the relationship is something totally independent of what the world is doing. Now, some of you have probably never even counted a trillion before. So let me say it again. 28 trillion 822 billion 987 million and counting. That is the US debt. Right next to it is debt per citizen. Right next to that is debt per taxpayer. If you go down, do you see where the largest budget items are? Look at Medicare, and Medicaid. Look at Social Security. Then look at war. 733 billion. Now, the modern man and the modern woman, when they're talking online and you're listening to your thought leaders, what are they talking to you about? Do you think that relationships is the most important thing? All right. Well, what does that look like? Because your quality of relationship is going to be based on the environment that you live in. The reason why you're able to talk about frivolous things is because capitalism. It's because America spends $733 billion on war. Because if you lived in the Congo, you would not have conversations about masculinity and femininity. Do you know why? Because your hierarchy of needs aren't in order. The reason why you're able to fuck off your time and beef with each other is because America has hundreds and hundreds of military bases in other countries, keeping everybody in line. And that allows you to go on YouTube and listen to people talk about nothing, talk about baby mamas, single mamas, talk about leveling up, blah, blah, blah. Let me scroll over for a sec. I just want to show you this real quick. If you ever just want to just check things out, you can go to debtclock.org. All right. So the population of the United States is 332 million. Right? Unemployment is 8 million. Right? Actual unemployed 14 million. These are the things that I look at some days, right? And I just look at these numbers and I'm like, wow, people really don't know what makes America work. But I just wanted to show you this real quick. And you could come to this at any time you want. But just know that you yourself, you are not debt free. You have 86,000 worth of debt because that debt is on your head. So right now it is costing you $86,000 to be in America because this number, if America defaults on this, this has to be paid. Okay? This has to be paid. Right? Let me scroll down so you could just see some of the stuff. This is unbelievable. This is this is unbelievable. By the way, just so we're clear, you see this right here? U.S. trade deficit to China. Okay? 338 billion, 709 million. Look at this, man. This is crazy. Dollar to crypto. Check this out. Dollar to crypto ratio 10.93 to 1. Yeah, this is what I be on. But I just wanted to show y'all something, and then now we're going to cook. Now we're going to get into this chop session real quick. I just wanted to share y'all that. So if you ever wanted to go check this out, this is the US debt clock. All right. So I want to show you something real quick. Y'all with me? Y'all good? All right. Make sure you like and share the video. Environmental determinism. Environmental determinism. The reason why this is important because these were the conversations that were being had before you and I were born. Because scholars wanted to know why people did what they did. People wanted to know why certain groups of people are moving forward and others are not. And they came up with environmental determinism. Now, some people have debunked it, but I wanted to come to you I'm going to use it. All right. So environmental determinism is the view that the physical environment rather than social conditions determine culture. Societies adapt to natural landscapes, climate, challenge response theory. People need challenge of a difficult environment. Weather of the middle latitudes led to more determined and driven work ethics. Now, that's important. Now, here's where environmental determinism does stand. People need challenge of a difficult environment. So when you live in a politically correct culture, when we make the world so safe and over-policed, people basically become soft. So when we're talking about the modern man and the modern woman, understand that the modern man and the modern woman are growing up in conditions that did not exist before. All right. I listen to a lot of male creators and they talk about the modern woman, the modern woman, the modern woman. But they don't talk about the environment, though. The environment is what is creating the modern woman. Women say, my grandfather and my uncles, and they're talking about men of a different period. Those men were born into an environment that made them the way that they are. The environment makes you the way that they are. And the more difficult the environment, the more resilient you become, the more resourceful you become. And I believe that you activate some type of problem-solving ability. Okay? So if you are born into an environment where the government basically engineers your well-being in your life, if you are born into an environment where other people teach your children, you don't have to hunt for your food. You have air conditioning. The conditions are in your favor. That's going to change dating. So what a lot of men, when they talk about the modern woman, what they're not including is the environment. Matter of fact, I'm gonna show you 1 second. All right. So then they introduced something called possibilism, right? But I'm not going to talk about that right now. But I just wanted to introduce something called environmental determinism. You ever heard the term survival of the fittest? That's based on environmental determinism. The brightest, the smartest, or the strongest, the fastest are the ones that's going to survive. Now those things aren't at play because the world, well, America is becoming less competitive. In fact, I don't even have to compete for a woman. Do you know that changes the nature of things? Because we're in a time where people mate because of looks and they don't mate because of survival. So it's very hard to have these conversations about the modern woman and the modern man when you're not talking about the environment. Let me bring this down for a sec. 1 second. 1 second. All right. So we have human environment interaction. All right. So you got environmental determinism, cultural determinism, possibilism, political ecology. All right. Environmental determinism, the theory that human behavior is controlled or determined by the physical environment. Example, ideal climate causes more productive citizens. All right. Now, there was a theory coming out of Europe that the indigenous people that lived in a tropical environment, the reason why they were not warrior-like and they were, quote, lazy, this is their words, was because the environment, because they didn't have to hunt for food, whereas Europeans had to hunt for food and lived in a more harsher environment. So when Europeans came in contact with other groups of people, they conquered them. Why? Because of the environment. Now, those same European have descendants. Those descendants don't have the same competitive edge that their ancestors had. Right? Jordan Peterson has to come tell them to make their bed. Why? Because their hierarchy of needs are in order. They're not the same. They don't live in an ice age. They don't live in a feudalistic society. All right? So their competition buttons are different. Then you got cultural determinism, the theory that the environment places no restrictions on humans whatsoever. Only restrictions are the ones humans create themselves. Then you have possibilism, counter argument to environmental determinism, argues that natural environment places limits on the set of choices available to people. People are not their environment. People, not the environment, propel human development. Then you have political ecology, attempts to answer why human cultures interact with environments the way they do. Government of a region affects the environment in the region, which affects choices available to people. I say we're living in all of those at one time right now. So when you're talking about modern women and modern dating, you can't open your mouth and talk about that unless you do it from a scholastic perspective, not from an opinion. Why do people do what they do? Why is modern dating different? Why is the modern woman behaving the way she behaves? Why does the modern man do what he does? What's the triggers? But the word of today is environmental determinism. I just wanted to bring those up, right? So I can basically lay a foundation of this conversation. Because we're going to talk about how different generations behave different than others, and you have to compare them to the generations they're from. You cannot compare guys right now to guys 100 years ago, two different times. You cannot compare women right now to women that are 100 years ago, two different times. You can't say, oh, what your granny did or what your grandpa did, two different times. What triggered their behavior was the environment. They couldn't do certain things. Do you know a woman couldn't divorce a man? Do y'all know that? Legally, a woman couldn't divorce a man. So that's a bad example to use to say, well, your grandmom was like this with your grandfather. Did she have a choice? Think about that for a second. And a lot of traditions that men are asking for, you don't even know what was baked into the culture, because the tradition that you want from a woman, you yourself would not want your mother or your daughter in those situations. Let's talk about curvature, because we're talking about the modern woman and the modern man. And we're comparing them to people of yesteryear, which is a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Because you don't know the conditions that made those people the way that they are. But let's look at something, right? By the way, the Cash App is open. I do accept money. Let's do it. Let's talk about curvature. Now, curvature is an important thing, because if you agree that you are descendants of indentured servants, or you are descendants of slaves, if you agree to that, then you have to understand that you was absorbed into another group of people's culture. That's only if you agree to that story. So if you agree to that story, that your forefathers or foremothers, whether you be Latino, whatever, even poor white, if you agree that you are descendants of indentured servants or slaves, then you have to understand that curvature was a system that women lived under and men inherited, even if they didn't earn it. Now, this is important, because we talk about the modern woman and the modern man from an interesting point of view. Men make the mistake of thinking that the way that things are being socially engineered for women of today, that things weren't socially engineered for men the same way. A lot of social dynamics that women had to go through with men, the men of that time didn't earn that. That was a system that was put in place by more powerful men, and the trickle down effect that the poor man on the bottom benefited, even though that man didn't do anything to earn that. The example for that is curvature. What is curvature? Curvature, in English and American law, curvature refers to a woman's legal status after marriage. Legally, upon marriage, the husband and the wife were treated as one entity. In essence, the wife's separate legal existence disappeared as far as property rights and certain other rights were concerned. Under curvature, wives could not control their property unless specific provisions were made before marriage. They could not file lawsuits or be sued separately, nor could they execute contracts. The husband can use, sell, or dispose of her property, again, unless prior provisions were made, without her permission. A woman who was subject to curvature was called femme covert, and an unmarried woman or other woman able to own property and make contracts was called femme solo. The terms come from medieval Norman texts. You know why that's important? Because for a long time, I've been hearing people talk about ideals like white supremacy. I've been hearing people talk about Eurocentric this and Eurocentric that. But it's very interesting when I hear this, when men talk about white supremacy, they don't include relationship dynamics. So basically, do away with do away with the system of white supremacy, the system that keeps the male down, but keep the system that keeps the woman down. So that's very difficult and unbalanced when you talk about the modern woman and the modern man, because honestly, when women started to graduate in their liberation in America, they knew the days of curvature. So do you understand why many women don't and didn't want to get married? Or no? In American legal history, changes in the 18th century and 19th century begin to extend women's property rights. These changes affected coverture laws. A widow was entitled, for instance, to a percentage of her husband's property after his death, dower, and some laws required a woman's consent to the selling of property if it could affect her dower. Understand, this is interesting because the same way that a lot of non-white men were not included on writing laws that govern the country, women weren't included in the laws that govern themselves either. These things were made by men. So if you're talking about the modern woman, you got to understand you are talking from a perspective that you don't have an accurate view of history. What I know is women think about quality, men think about survival. So as a man, you're thinking about your survival, but you're not thinking about your aunties. You're not thinking about your daughters. You're not thinking about any of that, because there exists some of this a little bit still to this day. But it's very interesting when I hear men be angry at divorce court and alimony and all that shit. But I mean, isn't that nature just flipping around? Because marriage did not benefit women before. Let me keep going, though. Let me keep going. So William Blackstone in 1765, authoritative legal text, commentaries on the laws of England, said this about coverture and the legal rights of married women. Now, mind you, this was not just England. This is America too, right? The English came to America and they came with these concepts. And if you was a 13 colony slave, these also became these concepts, right? The black male slave inherited the same practices that the overseer or the white slave master had. Same dynamic. By marriage, the husband and wife are one person in law. That is, the very beginning or legal existence of a woman is suspended during the marriage, or at least incorporated and consolidated into that of the husband, under whose wing, protection, and cover she performs everything, and is therefore called femme covert. That looks French. But I want you to peep that, though. By marriage, the husband and wife are one person in law. That is, the very being or legal existence of the woman is suspended during the marriage. That means she does not exist. Okay? So understand, what we think of marriage now was not the origin of marriage. In fact, the original marriages wasn't even religious. Okay? It wasn't even religious. So when you say that this is a union by God, that's not true. The church later picked it up. But Western marriages, and we are in the West, Western marriage, the woman was the man's property. There was no romance. The romance came from affairs. You know stories of Casanova, you know, knights seducing powerful men's wives. That's where the concept of romance comes from. All right? But husbands were not required to give passion to their wives and things like that. That is a new concept and a new phenomenon. So when we're talking about modern women and modern men, we have to talk about it from the proper scope of history, okay? So what men are banging and asking for, you're asking for old world where things leaned in your favor. But history does, nature doesn't do that though. Everybody get a shot. Everybody get a turn. You understand? All right. Do I want to finish this? Let me see. Yeah. So the wife couldn't own property. The wife had no identity, and the term for that is coverture. So when a woman got married, she was absorbed into the husband, right? And if I'm not mistaken, she wasn't even counted as a citizen. I'm like, who wants to go through that, right? So when you're talking about people's grandmothers and when you're talking about old school women, you have to include what was their options. Many of you talk about this from a perspective as the women chose their fate. They had no choice. And this ideal about hypergamy is so odd to me because the people that are hypergamous are fathers. Fathers wanted their daughter to mate and date with a certain individual. It was an exchange between him and another man. The child, the daughter, had no say so. So we can't say that a woman historically is naturally hypergamous because she didn't get to pick her man. Okay, hold on for a second. How now? This is the male saying this. Modern men say that women are hypergamous, but when I look at the nature of the two, men are hypergamous. If by nature the woman was hypergamous, I would not see homeless dudes right with a homeless woman. She would not be able to go against that, like a menstrual cycle. That's nature. When she has a child, she's able to breastfeed. That's nature. No, men are hypergamous. Men are choosy as hell. Men look at other men and say, and give him value. Okay? If the woman was naturally hypergamous, she would not leave a rich and wealthy man before emotional reasons. She wouldn't go against her nature. Is this women writing history or is this men writing the history for women? We got to be fair and balanced. So when we're talking about old school women, y'all never use the word coverture. You never talk about the environment that the women are in, not just the women, but the men too. The men were in an environment where the men inherited things they didn't necessarily earn. You didn't earn that system. You was born into it and you just happened to be male. If you was female, then life would have been happening to you. All right. Remember what we just was talking about, environmental determinism. What was the environment at that particular time for women or men? Hold on. Let's go back to it. Environmental determinism. The view that the physical environment, rather than social conditions, determines culture. The physical environment, rather than social conditions, determines culture. What was the physical environment for a woman? Remember, this is the most people have ever been out of poverty. The world has been poor forever. So this notion of hypergamy and all that, historically, that ain't true. Even to this day, the majority of the world has no drinking water. Yet there's babies running around. And those guys are married. Okay. All right. But what I want to get into is the generations. Because this is important because a lot of these talking points are not included in the generations that we live in. What is a Gen Xer? What is a millennial? What is a boomer? What is the characteristics of these people? And it's so interesting that we'll talk about the modern man and the modern woman. We are literally living the lives that getting the breadcrumbs of people that came before us. You can't blame me for how men were before. I got what I got and I make do. Same with a woman, right? It was women before her that were doing the things. So if you don't like the modern woman or you don't like the modern man, talk to the people that birthed these individuals. We just here. But let's get into it, right? And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I don't like talking points, right? People just say shit. I'm like, what does that mean, though? What does that mean? So over here at Coin Gang, we do a little reading from time to time, if that's okay. You know what I'm saying? In the spirit of Dr. Ben and them, you know. All right, can you guys see this? All right, so the lost generation or the lost generation, 1890 to 1915, that's when they were born. So this article is from 2018. So if they was alive to that day, they would have been 128. But you got the interbellum generation, the greatest generation, the silent generation, the boomer generation, Generation X, Zennials, and Millennials, right? Each of these people have a specific behavior. Let's get into it. All right. So again, you got the greatest generation, the silent generation, baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, Millennials, and Gen Z. All right. The greatest generation were born between 1910 and 1924. They experienced the Great Depression and fought World War II. Stop right there. So I've heard in spaces people say, well, I'll be honest with you, I've heard in some guys' spaces say, it's the women that change. The men haven't changed much. Really? Well, the men up now don't go through a draft. You have men now that have not experienced no war. You have men now that for real, have not experienced a real depression. What you call what happened in 2008, nobody starved though. People lost their homes, but people hide. Even the homeless people right now are fat. What does that tell you? If you see a skinny homeless person right now, it's because they smoke meth. America's so gravy right now that I can be homeless right now and eat every night. So the interesting thing is both come in pairs. The modern woman can't critique the modern man because she comes in a pair with him. The modern man can't critique the modern woman because he's a pair with her. If she's changed, you change. You are modern with her. No disrespect though, but the modern man can't talk about this stuff with women and the modern woman, modern man, but the modern man gets his nails and feet done. The modern man gets his skin done. Right? The modern man gets a mani and a pedi. So how could the modern man say anything about women? Also, women, when you talk about your granny and do you know what you're asking for real? Do you know what you asking for? Men before they used to do this and provider man. You didn't have a choice. You couldn't work. The concept of protecting and providing is a concept that was associated with what I just talked about with curvature. Understand, if you want to be protected and provided in the real way that this thing was set up, understand, sis, you have no identity. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that you want a protector and a provider, but a democracy. No, that's not how it works.
If you want a protector and a provider, you have to keep it in the context that it was used, which is coverture. You were absorbed into the husband, and you wasn't even a citizen of the country. That is your identity through the man. And I'm with it. If that's what you want, do you. But you don't get to bend it, though. You don't get to say that I want a protector and a provider, but I want to have an opinion, and I want to be able to do what I want to do, and I want to have my own money. No, you don't have nothing under the ideals of coverture. Both the modern man and the modern woman have a luxury. Y'all don't got to read books. That's your luxury. That the world is so gravy, America is so gravy that you don't have to study. Sir, the modern man gets a mani and a pedi. The modern man does what women do, but talks about women. The modern man calls the police when he has an issue with someone. If you are going to be the man of old, that means there's no police contact when you have an issue with a man. None. You go handle that. Take 10 spaces and take 10 steps and spin around. Right? So the modern man got some nerve. The modern man, or the old man, the tradition which y'all discuss and which y'all love so much, he built the house that he lived in. He didn't live in an apartment complex. The modern man says that his woman kicked him out the house for welfare. Now, the modern man is the descendant of who would have get kicked out the house for welfare. That's your forefathers. If you admit that, if you say something like that, then that's your forefathers, the guys that allowed themselves to be kicked out of their home. All right, y'all got to be careful with what y'all be saying now. All right, so also these were born. This is the greatest generation. Were born between 1910 and 1924. They experienced the Great Depression and fought World War II. The reason why they were married so young and they had so many children is because the life expectancy was low. You didn't live that long. These people were grown as hell very young. Life was serious. By 23, a person was considered a grown man. He had a whole damn family, right? Listen, they saved the war and built the nation. They are our great-grandfathers who grew up without modern conveniences like refrigerators, electricity, TV, radio, airplane, and air conditioning. Stop right there. The modern man can't say anything about this ideal of the modern woman when the modern man does not know a world without electricity, refrigerators, TV, radio, airplane, and air condition. Air condition. The modern man can be on the phone cussing his lady out. You don't do this and you don't do that and blah, 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 blah. And then go right to the thermostat and change the temperature. Think about that for a second. 100 years ago, there was no AC in a crib. If you was hot or cold in your house, you had to figure that out. So the men of this time was made of different stuff. Y'all gotta chill with the stuff y'all saying. Because if a man came back, I'm gonna keep it a thou out. If men 100 years ago was to hop in the Bill and Ted phone booth
and come back right now and hear the men that's talking shit. Come on, man. Like, for real. The men that be popping and capping right now got their nails done. Beijing's, dyed hair. You know what I'm saying? No oil on their hands. I mean, y'all gotta chill, man. Y'all gotta chill. Y'all gotta chill. All right, the silent generation, also known as builders or Lucy Few, were born between 1925 and 1945. Now, some of these people are still alive. They're about, if you was born on the low end, they're between like 70 and like late 90s. They saw the post-war happiness. The generation where women stayed at home and took care of kids while men focused on their career. This is what y'all talk about that y'all want. This is the Leave It to Beaver, I Love Lucy. This is what y'all talking about. Because y'all not talking about this right here. Y'all not talking about this. You ain't talking about no AC, no electricity. No. You're talking about this period with all of y'all talking about. When the women are talking about, I want to extend my femininity. You're talking about this. So this is after World War II. Now, if you like me, we grew up watching these old black and white shows where the wife had makeup on her face and high heels and she was baking apple pies. This is what you're talking about. When a woman is talking about resting in her femininity and she just want to be a housewife and take care of her kids, she's talking about a period between 1925 and 1945. Man, modern people are crazy as batshit. You mean to tell me you got to try, you want to recreate this period, but first you would have to recreate the men that went through this. All right. They saw the post-war happiness, the generation where women stayed at home and took care of kids while men focused on their career, a period where parents were very strict as children were seen and not heard. This was the generation that saw civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Robert F. Kennedy, and Gone with the Wind and Mickey Mouse. They were disciplined, self-sacrificing, and cautious. It also includes some who saw the Korean and Vietnam War. Now, men, this is the thing. Y'all are talking about, when you're talking about femininity and the women that you want, you are talking about women from this period. But let's look at the last sentence. They were disciplined, self-sacrificing, and cautious. Let me read that again. They were disciplined, self-sacrificing, and cautious. One more time. Let me get my Umar on. You got to say it 3 times so it sticks. They were disciplined, self-sacrificing, and cautious. So it's strange that a group of people want a person to be a certain type of way. This old person, this ideal you have in your head, but you're not the other half of that. All right, now. All right, let's get into them boomers. It started when the greatest generation came home and everyone became very casual about relationships. Individuals got high, dropped out, and became hippies. The generation can be divided into 2. The leading edge baby boomers and the trail edge baby boomers. These are individuals born between 1946 and 1956 and 1956 to 1964, respectively. They formed the me generation, who became optimistic, team-oriented, self-righteous, and self-centered. It is the rock and roll, Elvis, Beatles, Woodstock, miniskirts, Barbie generation. Both men and women became the breadwinners. The world saw the uproar of feminism. Having a divorce became less dramatic. It also, this generation saw the invention of TV. It grew as the largest generations in history with 77 million people. Now you see the inclusion of divorce. Why? Because women are getting rights. So I need the modern man to take into consideration when he talks about Medea and them, right? Hattie Mae, Mabel, when he talks about these old women, include that they could not divorce a man. So don't say what people put up with if you're not going to include everything. Did they have an alternative? No. So women now have choice, but you're trying to compare them to women with no choice. And you say, well, your grandmama, but my granny didn't have a choice though. So that's like them comparing you to an ex-slave, right? You got a choice, brother. Come on, man. You can't do that. You got to keep it a stack, right? But this baby boomer generation is interesting because people act like this now, right? Me, right? Everybody's an influencer. Everybody's this, everybody's that, right? Mini skirts and all that. And y'all talking like this shit is new. 1964 is hella long ago. Not really, but it is. This stuff been like this for 50 years. So why are we talking about, yeah, if you go before 1960, why does that matter? Why does that matter? It's here. It's here. And don't talk to us about how the people are behaving. Talk to the people that created this. These are our grandparents. Why are you talking to us? Why is the modern man talking to the modern woman about her behavior when her granny was like this? Why is the modern woman talking to the modern man about certain shit when his grandfather was like this? Y'all want to bring back the past so bad. That's that Egyptian shit. Y'all stuck in the past and got no concept of the future. The past. And we're arguing about shit that we was, man, please. Like, y'all got to quit. Generation X. In this generation, born between 1965 and 1979, also called the baby bust generation, as it was the time that saw the decrease in the birth rate. Why? You have contraceptive now. The kids of this generation grew up. The kids of this generation grew up in an age where computers got introduced to their school curriculum. They saw divorce as well as career-oriented parents. That's so interesting because y'all talk a lot about educated women and blah, 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 right? But this been happening for 40 years. And guess what? When they're talking about this, you know they're not talking about Black people first or Mexican people first, right? This is how white people were living. You know why that's important? Because I know I got a Black following and y'all love to be romantic about other groups of people. Y'all swear to God, other groups of people do X, Y, and Z. Y'all got culturally low self-esteem. So when I'm reading this and they're talking about divorce and career-orientated parents, who are they talking about? Because for real, outside of the few Black millionaires that you'll hear me talking about, niggas didn't see no real money as a collective until drugs started popping. So we know, right? Now, I will say that Matthew and Tina Knowles, they were some millionaires in the 80s. Beyonce's parents. Matthew Knowles was killing it at Xerox, and Tina Knowles had the hair popping. So you have a few, but I'm talking about as a collective from St. Louis to New York to the Bay Area. People that never had no money, the first time they got it was selling crack. This housewife lifestyle, like that y'all, it's so crazy. Who are y'all talking about? Who are y'all talking about? The modern woman, the modern woman. The modern woman, that what you call the modern woman, has been like this for 100 years. Luckily, the people that say this stuff, the crowd doesn't read books. That's why it's lucky. Like, no, they grew up on sparse technology exposure, open to entrepreneurship, late to get married, casual at divorce, and believed in work-life balance. Really? Casual at divorce. Because y'all know y'all say, hey, women initiate 80% of the divorces. This is y'all talking points. This is what y'all say. This been happening. I'm in 65 between 79. So the people between 65 and 79, this is their behavior. So stop talking to the modern man, modern woman, unless you are going to address the environment that we are born in. I don't want to hear none of that shit. Hey, I see my mama work 2 jobs. And guess what? When she did get married to a dude, right? An entrepreneur, she couldn't sit her ass down. She wanted to work. I'm just giving my experience. The women that I grew up with, I'm used to them working. That's all I know. So I don't know about this other period that people talking about. That's what I'm used to. I seen women work my entire life. That was regular. When I got my first job at 17 at Walmart in the layaway department, it was women working. If they weren't working, they were selling dope. I know women like that too. Or bouncing checks or doing hair. I only know this lifestyle that people are talking about online when I watch Leave It to Beaver. And don't forget, on the Cosby Show, Claire was a lawyer. The only damn woman that didn't work was Florida Evans. And when she said that she was going to go to college, James went crazy. When Florida tried to get a license, James went crazy. No, Florida, no, nah. Why? James wasn't educated. James got his money with that pool stick. Right? Florida was at home. But when she wanted to get a car, you got to look at them shows and analyze it. Like Florida having them babies in Cabrini Green. First of all, her character was supposedly 38 years old. That was an old damn 38. And James was supposed to be 41. You see how old the people look? She was supposed to be 38 years old, her character. Lord. But growing up in Cabrini Green, they was dirt poor. And Florida was like, James, I can help. And James was like, nah. That's what the men now want the women to be. This is weird. Y'all trying to push people into sitcoms. But what is the reality, though? The reality is people are the generation that they come from. It was really only one period, and that was from after World War II, where people were living like that. The rest, man, people work, man. People work. People work. All right, they grew up in this part of the... They desire a chance to learn, explore, and make a contribution. This generation got little bit into brands and labels. They knew what they wanted, but struggled to pay for it. They experienced the emergence of music videos, new music, electronic, glam rock, heavy metal, punk, grunge, and hip hop. It is the Nirvana, YouTube, Madonna, Torn Jeans, Friends, Beverly Hills 90210, PC generation. Those people right now are turning 50 years old. All right. And we are right up under them. So it's just interesting to hear this shit about the modern. How would you know? You 24 years old. How would you know? How would you know? You just got here. All right. Millennium is the generation from Earth born between 1980 and 1994. That would be me. I'm born in 83. This generation is less immune to brands or labels and instead conceives fashion as an ever-changing trend. This generation is self-conscious, has active lifestyle, eats healthy, and loves being fit. This generation is open to relationships, late to marriage, and accepts sexuality in many ways. They feel enormous academic pressure, envision the world as a 24/7 place, believes in fast and immediate processing. They are the Yahoo, mobile phone, Google, Facebook, iPhone generation with unlimited access to information. They prefer digital literacy. They tend to be assertive with strong views. Hence, you hear me talking. This is me. This is me. But I'm only a reflection of the generation that came before me. Can't blame me. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. Generation Z. It is the generation born after 1995. Now, this is some of y'all children. In this generation that has always seen the world with computers and phones, their life is interwoven with technology and referred to as technoholics. With the advent of computers and web-based learning, children leave behind toys at younger and younger age. It's called KGOY generation. Kids growing older, younger. They become less interested in toys and begin to desire electronics such as cell phones and video games. They are tired of hearing about the environment and the many ways we have to save it. They are oversaturated with brands. It is the generation that will experiment Google Glass, nano computing, 3D printing, and see driverless cars. How can you talk femininity, masculinity, all this gender roles shit to people that only thing they know is technology? Y'all out of season. And I want you to peep something too. The Gen Z generation, they're not going with a lot of the shit that we're talking about. They're not going. People that's 21, 22, 23, 24, they're making their own relationships. They're having their own type of friends. They're not hearing none of the stuff we talking about. They're making things. A lot of the talking points people pushing. Look, I'm gonna show you a generation that is going to extinct you. 1 second. I wasn't even gonna bring this up. I was gonna bring this last, but I'm gonna do it right now. There's a generation that you don't even know about. So you know how we talk about racism and race and blah blah blah. There's a generation that everything you talking about, your number one threat, all you people want to hold on to all this shit. I got your threat right here. Let me show you something. Let me see. Where is it? I got your threat right here. He breaks these people down real good. After Generation Z is a generation called Generation Alpha. Generation Alpha is not going to care about Marcus Garvey. Generation Alpha is not going to give a damn about race. Generation Alpha is not going to care about no femininity, no masculinity, none of that. Generation Alpha is your number one threat because they are not going to carry no tradition. None. Listen, this thing is so crazy that marketers and companies are already preparing for them people to be born. While the modern man and the modern woman is talking stupid, companies are preparing for a generation that is not even born so they can sell to them. You don't even matter in the grand scheme of things. The things that we're fighting for, the things that we're online going back and forth in the chat room, blah, 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 black women this, black women men, black men that, blah, blah, blah. You don't even matter. Corporations are not even thinking about you 50 years from now. You ever heard of Generation Alpha? No, of course not, because I do this. Because you be in the comment section, wah, wah, wah. Let me just read a few things for Generation Alpha. Every new generation brings new customs, behaviors, and cultural phenomena that shape the world as we know it. Boomers brought significant economic influence. Millennials taught us new ways of viewing our socio-political world. And Gen Z showed us what the intersection of technology and humanity look like. Now we have Gen Alpha, a demographic of tech-savvy, racially diverse, and unapologetic, influential children who will start entering adulthood at the end of the 2020s. But they're children. They aren't our buyers. Why should marketers care about them right now? Studies have shown children under 12 can influence parental purchases of 130 to 670 billion a year, and it won't be long before they are buyers. The reason why I'm showing you this and the reason why I showed you the debt clock is because you are behind an information wall. Corporations are preparing, right, for an entirely new generation to enter the consumer market. And it's not until 20 years for real. Generation Alpha. You heard about the boomers. You heard about Gen Z. You heard about millennials. You never heard a Generation Alpha. These people will not care about none of the shit we're talking about. None of the stuff. You know what's weird, man? Is y'all fighting to hold on to a past. You're fighting for a past or what you think the past looks like. What you think the past looks like. Half of y'all don't know what the past looked like until you watch television. And we know the brain can't differentiate what's real and what's fake. And what we learn in neuro-linguistic programming is that you can implant memories in people that weren't there, that it never happened. So you can implant cultural memories too. Mm-hmm. So what people are holding on to are these cultural memories. They're not sure if it happened, but they hope it's there. You got so many threats. But while you're fighting for survival and you're talking about generational wealth, how do you even know that the generation that comes after you wants to do what you're setting up for them? The best you can do is set up a corporation and have them work in it. Because if you think for 1 second that your money is about to pass through generations, you are bugging. It doesn't even work like that. Institutions live on. Corporations live on. But the money, that should be gone by the second generation. It's highly possible the generational wealth that you're talking about, you will see your offspring squander that. You have to set up the system for them. You're going to be 80, 90 years old and your grandchildren going to broke. Why? Because you're not thinking about the time that they're going to live in. What is the conditions and the behavior of the group of people that's supposed to inherit your fortune? You never thought of that. Just like Gen Z is a group of people, Gen X is a group of people with certain behaviors, millennials is a group of people with certain behaviors. What is the behaviors of the group that's going to inherit your fortune? What is going to be going on culturally? Gen Alpha. Let's take a look at the climate shaping this upcoming generation and what we can expect from them in the future. Generation Alpha covers those born between, look at the years, man, 2010 and 2024. So the end of them hasn't even been born yet. Most of their parents are millennials. Every 9 minutes, a new member of Generation Alpha is born in the United States. By 2025, this group will reach a worldwide population of more than 2 billion. And look where all the births are at. India, China, Indonesia. And do you know what sector of work those people? Never mind. Generation Alpha culture and the future of marketing. Although some Gen Alpha babies haven't been born yet, there are a few things we can predict about them. For starters, Generation Alpha will be the most technologically advanced generation to date, growing up with mobile devices, AI, social media, advanced healthcare, and robotics as part of their everyday lives. They will be digitally literate, adept multitaskers as a result. Gen Alpha also stands to be the most materially endowed generation of all time. This means they can end up being able to spend more on non-essentials than previous generations. Hold on. Now, remember I just said that it's not a guarantee that your money lasts generationally, especially if this Generation Alpha group is they will be able to spend more on non-essentials than the previous generation. What are non-essentials? So your millions and all this generational wealth you're talking about, you haven't even did a forecast on the people that's going to be alive to inherit it. You know why? Because you're in the fucking comment section arguing with niggas about who should get the big piece of chicken, about modern woman and modern man, about femininity and I'm oppressed and patriarchy and blah, blah, blah. Let me ask you this. Do you think that Generation Alpha is going to use language like that? Do you think Generation Alpha is going to be like, we're under a system of patriarchy? Do you think so? I'm going to tell you right now, they are not. They're going to be in a world where robots are their counterparts. Come on, y'all. The modern man and the modern woman is making a mistake. Y'all not talking about shit that matters. This is a golden opportunity. The first time where everybody from everywhere can meet up in one spot online and to share ideals with each other. And this is what y'all did with the time. History's going to record this moment. Y'all came together. Y'all could have talked about anything. And you know what y'all talked about? Get in the kitchen, make me a sandwich. You know what you talked about, ladies? Other groups of men are providers. Meanwhile, the group of people that you're talking about, it's funny, Dr. Jordan Peterson has to write books like The 12 Principles of Life. And he has to tell those same group of men to make their bed. Why? Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about how those men, the same group of men that y'all talking about, are ducking responsibility. Who's lying? Who's lying? Who's lying? Huh? Provider. Right? Other groups of men are providers. But Dr. Jordan Peterson and Charles Murray Dr. Charles Murray, who is almost 80 years old, who's a white man, talks about the changing landscape in white America and how traditional values of white culture are dissolving and how people aren't getting married, right? And how the single mom rate in white America is going up. Jordan Peterson talks about that the group of men in that culture don't want to be responsible. They're gamers. Oh, okay. I'm just saying. You know, see, you're listening to people that got talk. I'm listening to Charles Murray. Never mind. Let's go. As Generation Alpha evolves, so will their familiar technology. We already seen the effects of exponential technological growth on current generation, and these effects will continue to grow. It's expected that AI and robotics will be completely integrated into modern life by 2025. Now, these Generation Alpha people, this is all they know, similar to how you catch a subway. Think about that for a sec. The way you catch a subway, the way that you ride the bus, right? These people will be born into the world where that's all they know. We can also expect machine learning, natural language processing, and smart devices to change, improve, and further connect us to the coming years. Gen Alpha find themselves interacting with robots just as frequently as humans. For marketers, this means speaking to an astute audience that may know the ideal product better than we do. Similarly, we can expect Gen Alpha to reject traditional forms of marketing, much like their millennial parents did not long ago. An increasing interest in personalization, humanized messaging, and social shopping should be assumed. Listen, man. Look, this is a whole profile. This is a whole profile of people of what they're gonna do in the next 10, 15 years. Many of the people that he's talking about in this right now are 11. So corporations are already preparing to sell to people 20-something years old, man. Come on. What? While you're talking about generational wealth, right? Corporations are coming up with ways to take that wealth from your generation. I bet that the corporation is going to do that. I got my money on the corporation. I'm sorry, but I don't think that you can put it in your progeny to keep their shit. I'm a bet on them. You know why I'm a bet on them? Because you didn't even know they was doing this. So I'm going to put a bet on the people that's talking about this, right? So the number one threat to all you handkerchief heads is the alpha generation, because they don't care. They're not going to hold on to none of this. And you're going to be the old people that's talking about, man, y'all hella disrespectful back in my day. But that goes on and on and on, right? But I'm just saying, though, who's doing the thinking? So if you see corporations, they're changing you think it's about political correctness now. Nah. What they're preparing for is a sexually fluid generation. What they're preparing for is a more racially diverse generation. You don't matter. They matter, right? So, and what these corporations are doing is making sure that they exist 200, 300 years from now. So while we're doing all the generational wealth conferences and we got to do this and real estate, and they're figuring out ways to how to get the money from the people that you think you're going to pass it to. But while Generation Alpha is your biggest threat, there's something that your death blow to wipe you away from history is the generation that comes after that. They're called Generation Beta. You know how they're beta males, you're a beta male. Well, there's a generation that comes right after that generation, and it's called Generation Beta. This generation is augmented. This generation will start being born right around 2030. So in 2050, they'll be 20. And I can promise you, you won't exist no more. Your history, everything you talk about, you didn't even know they existed. Generation Beta is a chipped up society, the Internet of Things. I'm not going to go into them right now, but I just want you to know that everything that you think is important will not exist by 2050, because this generation will be chipped up, and it's going to happen. You can't stop technology. There's already a projection about these people and how they're going to behave, right? People having the wrong conversations. I was saving that for the back end. I wasn't even going to bring that out. I was actually saving that for the back end. But I wanted to go ahead and hit a home run to let you know that, man, high value man, femininity, wah, wah. You're holding on for dear life. That's what you're doing. You're holding on for dear life in a world that is evolving so fast. You're holding on for dear life. So when I look at titles that say the modern man and the modern woman, I'm like, you're on a timetable, right? So in 40 years, I'm almost 40 in 2 years. In 40 years, I'll be 80. I'm thinking about that time, right? Because I need Generation Beta to hold me down. So y'all can have this shit. I'm thinking about them. You feel me? Like, yeah, I'm thinking about them. So let's bring it back a little bit. I want to show y'all something, because for us to talk about the modern man and the modern woman, we have to look at key differences in the generations and compare them. And I just want to let you know that The reason why I set my things up like this is because it's in the dumps now, but there was something in 1997 and 1998, in the year 2000, it was something called the conscious community, right? It was an actual thing before all the perversion, before the scamming. You know, these people didn't make a lot of money, but boy, could they put something together. So when I do this, I always do this in the spirit of them, because Joel Pokrum is not popular right now, right? Joel Pokrum didn't speak in memes. Leonard Jeffries didn't speak in memes. Dr. Ben didn't speak in memes, right? These are the people that I remember. Bobby Hemmett didn't speak in memes, right? And I don't do what modern people do, right? I don't judge them with their finances, or many people have perversions, right? Don't judge them. I just look where they mastered their craft. So I always do it in the spirit of them, right? Back when the word Hotep actually meant something. Now it means the nigga's broke and anyway. I just thought I'd add that in there. Let me make this bigger real quick. So right here, let me see. Show up on the screen. All right. Can y'all see that? So you got the traditionalists, the baby boomers, Gen X, millennials. Now we went over it a little bit, right? But we got to get down to the nooks and crannies of what makes a modern man and a modern woman modern, and what makes people of old old. What are some of the key things that make them like that? All right, traditionalists, people born between 1900 and 1945. They're called the traditionalists, right? So they had World War II, Korean War, Great Depression, rise of corporations, space age, raised by parents that just survived the Great Depression, experienced hard times while growing up, which were followed by prosperity. All right. So that's the traditionalists. You got the boomers, civil rights, sexual revolution. Look at this, the highest divorce rate. Mm-hmm. You know what that tells me? Is this ideal of what y'all think of marriage and love? The first opportunity people got to get away from each other, they took the shit. Hold on. The first opportunity people got to get away from each other, they took it. People didn't get divorced hundreds of years ago, or the period y'all think, because it was, no one wanted to be shamed. But as the country started progression, people started having mobility, people having options, people wanted to see other people. So don't talk about grandmama and them without including that. You got to. And I find it funny, the baby boomers, their divorce rate went high as hell. But one of the things about the boomers, the American dream was promised to them as children, and they pursued it. As a result, they were seen as being greedy, materialistic, and ambitious. Generation X, you had the Watergate. You had dual income families and single parents. Now, here's the thing, ladies. Here's the thing. You can't necessarily be mad at niggas with the 50-50 shit. You know who told them to think like that? Not their daddy, their mama. You know why? Because here's the secret. Women don't fuck with other women. When women are talking to their sons, I would know. There is no female empowerment. If a boy is being too nice to a girl, his mom is gonna check that shit. Don't be giving that girl your damn money. A lot of y'all women talking to the wrong people. You talking to the men about 50-50. Where they get it from? Because men are tricks by nature. So anything that we learn about women, we learn it from women. We learn it from our aunties, right? And we didn't grow up seeing no sisterhood. We didn't grow up seeing women working together. We didn't grow up seeing women talking kindly to each other. We grew up watching women in the church get on the phone with each other and gossip about each other. That's what we grew up watching. That's real talk. So what is the expectation? This is where we come from. Millions of us. Right? So we didn't grow up with mama and them. I mean, if you did, you was lucky. If you seen your mom and sisters and women have a positive relationship, man, you an outlier. That was dope. But you got to keep in mind, we grew up with crack. Right? And I want y'all to peep this too. Because we're talking about generation. Do you know a lot of boys, they lost their virginity to a crackhead woman? See, we do a lot of judging. We do a lot of little slick, sharp tongue talking. These environments that people are coming from, the girls too, I'm talking about the boys, is crazy. You lose your virginity at 12 and 13 to your homeboy's mama because she want dope. This is people's reality. We try to act, and I'm talking about Black America. We try to cognitive dissonance. We try to act like this stuff didn't happen. Yeah, right. That's real. So what's the expectation of a boy that lost his virginity to a Black woman on drugs and he was 12 and 13? How do you think he looks at women? What is his POV to a woman, right? He's seen Black women at the lowest state because crack is, man, what it does to a woman. And this is the thing. It wasn't just quote unquote Keisha's on crack. It was professionals that hit it one time and that was it. So now we see a woman that worked for the city or worked for the college, a professional woman. That's Miss, you know what I'm saying? Miss Brown. Like now Miss Brown is hooking for rocks. She was a professional woman. So this wasn't all people from the bottom. A lot of the people that got strung out was people that had brownstones in Baltimore, in DC, in Harlem. So that's what made the drug so crazy, because it shaved away Black wealth. I would argue that crack cocaine took more wealth from Black people than what y'all think Jim Crow and all that shit did. Matter of fact, I bet it. Because remember, these was people that worked. They had things. And the people did not take over their brownstones, their real estate. They had businesses and all that, but they got on drugs. And no one really talks about crack. We skip over that generation. It's crazy what the mind does and what we choose to talk about. You know what I'm saying? What we choose to talk about. You know what I mean? Right? And the men. How come y'all talk about the modern woman, but y'all never say that y'all sold drugs to niggas' mothers? That's what make y'all so foul. That's what make y'all so foul.
The moms was buying dope from the boys. The men controlled the drug market. That's what make y'all so foul. Y'all talk this shit about the modern woman, blase blah, and what she's doing to her kids, and y'all so dope. I've never seen just black men from that period for real just be like, yo, I'm sorry. I ain't know what we was doing. And you didn't. You didn't know what it was going to do. I get it. You was 17, 18, 19. Some niggas made millions in this shit. I get it. You had no clue what this chemical was going to do. You didn't know. But y'all 50 now, though. And y'all talking. And this is why the educated lame got to shut up. Because the educated lame seems to talk about a certain group, the Pookies and the Ray Rays and the Key. All right, cool. So if you're going to talk about that period, you got to talk about it for real then. You educated lame for a reason. You not lame in school, but when it come to the street shit, nigga, you lame. So you got to shut up about that. If your mama wasn't on rocks, if you ain't never sold rocks, if you ain't did none of that shit, you got to stop talking about the people that went through that. And I don't want to hear nothing about the modern woman that comes from those trenches. So yeah, the modern woman that comes from those trenches, no, she didn't want no soft dude. Why? First of all, you couldn't even come to her crib to pick her up because her brothers was going to run your pockets. So she couldn't fuck with a soft dude. Them girls could only fuck with dudes their brothers respected. And let me introduce this. When they say 60% of black women have been raped and molested, blah, 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 blah. You know, guys be like, well, why didn't y'all say anything? I got an answer for you. A lot of these girls had brothers that were shooters. If they would have said what was happening to them on their way to school, see, you see them little nuances? You had to be there. How do I know something like that, right? You had to be there. A guy touch on a girl ass. If she told her brothers, and guess what? The dude that touched her is part of the crew. See? That's nuance. You got to know about that stuff. A lot of them girls didn't say nothing to keep the peace. See? Because you know your cousins, your brothers, who did what? So you ain't say nothing. I bet you won't hand clap the woman for going through trauma and pain and not saying nothing to keep the peace. And before for the men, you won't say that. So y'all got to be careful with that modern shit, right? Because what are you talking about, yo? What are we modern women? Modern, like, what y'all talking about? You know what people come from? You know what people been through, right? And the trash thing about social media and YouTube is the people that control the narrative are the people that was scared to death at this time. I get it. This shit was rough, but you was scared to death. So millennials, digital media, child focused world, school shootings, terrorist attacks, AIDS, 9/11,
Yo, peep that. That's our reality. School shootings. Typically grew up as children of divorce. They hope to be the next generation and turn all they hope to be the next generation and to turn around all the wrong they see in the world. They grew up more sheltered than any other generation as parents strive to protect them from the evils of the world. That's a fact. Came of age in a period of economic expansion, kept busy as kids. First generation of children with schedules. That's a fact. Because I don't remember being in the house when I was young. Remember, environmental determinism. People are the environment that they're born into. Let's keep going. I want to show this right. So let's talk core values. What are the core values of the traditionalists, the boomers, Gen Xers, the millennials? All right, traditionalists, adhere to rules, conformers, delayed reward, discipline, don't question authority, duty before pleasure, family focus, giving back is important, hard work, law and order, loyalty, patriotism, patience, respect for authority, respect, responsibility, savers, stabilizing, trust in government. What are baby boomers? Anti-war, anti-government, anything is possible, equal rights, equal opportunities, extremely loyal to their children, involvement, optimism, personal gratification, personal growth, question everything, spend now, worry later, team oriented, transformational, trust no one over 30, youth, work, want to make a difference. Gen X, balance, diversity, entrepreneurial, fun, educated, high. Do you see the differences between these two and the generation before? We have never went back to that beginning. So with these traditionalists, old America, we have never went back to that. Don't question authority. Yeah, right. Trust in government. Yeah, right. Don't question authority. Yeah, right. Duty before pleasure. Yeah, right. Look at Gen X, highly educated, high job expectation, independent, informality, lack of organizational loyalty, pragmatism, seek life balance, self-reliance, skepticism, suspicious of boomer values. So you see a shift right there. Gen Xers looked at boomers like, eh. Boomers looked at traditionalists like, eh. And now you have millennials. Achievement, avoid consumers, civic duty, confidence, diversity, extreme fun, high morals, highly tolerant, hotly competitive, like personal attention, self-confident, sociability, members of global community, most educated generation, extremely techno-savvy, extremely spiritual, now optimism, realism, street smarts. Now, why are you surprised when you hear these things born into this environment when people get divorced? Why would marriage be forever when that is not our environment? If that shit not working, people is gone. You want people to go back to the old way for what? What make y'all think the old way was working? What would make y'all think that? This ideal, or let's just call black love. Why y'all think that was working? If it was working, the first chance that people got to get divorced, they wouldn't have took it. If it worked, you would not have to coerce and convince people to go back to the old way. Think about that shit. If it looked like a winning situation and people was good, then you would not have to do panels. You know? You would not have to you wouldn't have these spaces that talk about traditional values. What made people traditional? State pressure, war, right? Collapse of the economy, right? The first chance people got to get away from that, they did. That tells me something. Tells me a lot. All right, let me keep going. That was core values. Attributes. Tradition, committed to company, competent, confidence, conservative, dedication, doing more with less, ethical, physical, prudent, hardworking, historical viewpoint, honor, linear work style. All right, baby boomers, able to handle a crisis, ambitious, anti-establishmentism, challenge authority, competent, competitive, consensus leadership, consumerism, ethical, Generation X. Do you see the thing? Like, you can only compare millennials to millennials. You can only compare Gen X people to Gen X people. You can only compare boomers to boomers. And you can only compare traditionalists to traditionalists. You cannot compare a millennial woman, right, that was born after all this shit and compare her to someone born in 1912. You can't do that. I got some more to get through, but okay. So real quick, let me see. All right. Traditionalists. All right, so look. So you got family experience. So the traditionalists, you got the nuclear family, baby boomers, disintegrated, clever family, mom staying home, and children were seen as special. Gen X, latchkey kids, women widely expected to work outside the home. The first daycare generation, dual incomes. Millennials, merged family, coddled kids. They get a trophy for coming in place, 8th place. I really want to focus on this Gen X generation, right? Because there's a certain content creator that is this age in this Generation X age, right? And they talk a lot about modern women, right? But they don't talk about the men of this area. I'm not going to mention the content creator's name, but he's a Gen Xer and he talks a lot about modern women, right? But he does not talk about the men from his era, because the men from his era expected the women to work outside the home, right? Daycare generation. So are you telling me that the women set this up by themselves? Who is expecting the woman to work outside the home? Why is she expected to work outside the home? So I think it's very interesting to come 40 and 50 years later to tell the women to get in pocket. No, sir. Y'all have to talk to the men. What was the men doing? See, because if you talk to the men, it's gonna open up some shit that we don't like to be honest about. In certain America, Black, the women have always worked. That's not my opinion. the women have always worked. If we peel back the layers of why the women have to work outside the home, right? We're going to peel back something that we don't like to be honest about. And it's going to peel back the fact that many men left their home. The way that I qualify that is because when I was a boy and I would go to the corner store, it was men in groups and they was there all day long. They had brown bags. When you walk past them, you didn't have to know the label or what they were drinking. You could smell it. Groups. See, I remember the welfare queen, the crackhead mama, all that. I'm about all accountability, all that. But the common denominator in this is the man. You don't have the welfare queen with men standing on their square. So when we talk about these things and we talk about the condition of the babies, we talk about the condition of the women and all that, and I'm with you. I got you. But you would have a case if the men were righteous. You have no case because the men aren't righteous. That's just honest. It was not safe when we grew up. It wasn't safe for the babies. And you know what's funny? Because it's so much focus on the modern woman. But I don't know if y'all really paying attention. You know how many little kids are getting shot? Y'all don't see the murder rate? Why ain't men talking to men right now? Why are y'all talking to females? Why are the males talking to females? Why do the males care if the woman die alone or not? Why do y'all care? When the boys are dying now. One thing I can say about the men of old, and you know, I was born after a lot of those men met their demise. The Martin, the Malcolm, the Huey, the Bobby Seals, the Black Liberation Army, everybody's flawed. But at least they sprung into action. They seen a problem, tried to do something about it, right? Breakfast program. But guess what? That was the times. So, I mean, these guys didn't get their nails and feet done. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just odd when we banging on women and when we getting manis and petties, right? Do y'all know why women care about money so much like y'all claim? Man, see, y'all don't be having people to tell your truth. It's because of y'all. Men started calling other men broke. Man, that broke ass nigga. Men didn't talk to each other like that before. That's guys saying that. You need to analyze the modern man. And look at the modern man and look at his behavior and look, does his behavior go with the times? Then add dysfunction, then add all that. And I'm saying that because I can type in the modern woman and it's Rollo Tomasi talking about it. It's Red Pill talking about it. Space is talking about it. It's a real microscope on the modern woman. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can listen to it. I'm just waiting for the man shit. And when I hear the man stuff, the men are saying, we haven't changed. Really? Really? Let me see. Dealing with money, focus, tasks, work relations. Let me see. Business focus. I mean, this is a lot. There's a lot. But there's so much difference between the generations. But I want to show you something. I want to play a video. It's video time, right? And there's a lot of talk about the modern woman, but I want to hear how a man talked back then, right? And I had to use, right? Because y'all, it's all about him, right? And I want to play some things from him, and I'm going to point out the key differences of men today and men then, because we always talk about the modern woman, right? So let's watch a video real quick. And this is the average regular white guy back then, right? So he grew up in the 50s. But I want you to hear him talk about a particular thing right now, right? And look at what he thinks about it. So he's old now. He's old when they did this, and this is some years ago. But he grew up in the 50s, though. All right? Let's do it.
09.
Okay. All right, we're going to talk about sex.
Good. Something that's, at my age, I appreciate, believe me.
Well, one of the kind of tenets of the counterculture was kind of the freedom of sex, and partly brought on, of course, by the pill, which is a very liberating force in the 60s. What did you think about that when you saw young kids?
Well, there again, you see, I'm from a different time and day. Not much far removed from these kids, but still a different time and day. And I couldn't believe it. I was, to me, it was like shocking in a way, even though I'm a man, they say a man doesn't care as much as a woman and all this. But still, it was unreal to believe that this was going on.
Excuse me, could you start all that and say what it is you're referring to?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I forget that. Now, you talk about the sexual revolution, if you want to call it that. It was kind of shocking to me that all these things were going on, because my time of day, this was unheard of. You didn't talk about these things. Like, I used to kid around. I used to say I was 22 years old before I found out a prophylactic wasn't a toothbrush. And, we knew, but not like the kids were practicing what we knew, so to speak. And I guess they had grown one step, each generation goes one step beyond the next. So maybe that was their way of, going one step beyond us in one thing. And, of course, it shocked people in my category, in age and everything. And it shocked most of us, but some of them even fell in with it. Some of the older people even fell in with it a little bit. I don't say completely, but a little bit. Must be because even the senior citizens were living together, to keep the Social Security checks coming in. So they fell in with it real easy in a way. They had a reason, you see. But it's no good. I mean, it's too loose, and too many things can happen. A lot of children are born out of wedlock, and the guy takes off and goes Christ knows where, and the girl's left with the problem with the kid. Now, next thing you know, she can't make it in this world for some reason. She's not equipped with any kind of technical skills or anything to make a living, real good living. Anyway, so what happens? She falls into the what do you call it? The framework of dependency on the government and everything. And so what happens? We're paying for it in the tax structure. See, so I don't know. It's not good for a lot of other reasons too. It's not moral. I mean, if you're a religious person, it's not moral. I'm not the greatest religious person, but I still say it's not moral. I mean, I wouldn't want to see my daughter pregnant, not married. I don't guess anybody would.
What about your daughter living with somebody and not married?
I don't like that either. Just see, I wasn't born. I'm not up with this sort of thing now. The kids all do it. Not all, but a lot of them do it. They live with each other, everything. Even in colleges, the dorms are co-ed and all that sort of thing. It's just strange to me because I wasn't brought up that way. I was brought up, the boys stay here, the girls stay there. You know what I mean? I mean, that was it. If you wanted to take a girl out, you take a girl out. You want to go dancing, you could take a girl out and everything. But you didn't live with them. I don't know of any guy in my crowd that ever lived with a girl. Really, in the whole, in their 20s. Most of us were in our 20s and everything, and most of us got married about the same time. And we just never thought about things like that. Forbid, like, one night I got caught in a snowstorm with my wife, she was my fiancée at the time, got caught over her house in a terrible snowstorm. Well, they had to put me up overnight. So I slept in the attic by myself, up in the attic. I didn't hear the end of it for 2 months. Everybody said I was sleeping with my wife in her room, you know, something like that. But, you know, it just, that's the way things were in those days. That was a scandal already, you know, everybody.
The modern man, right? Talking about women, right? Huh, interesting. It was shameful for a dude to be even lay in a bed with a woman and y'all not married. How can the men talk about modern women? If you want this thing in your head about what you think is traditional, don't you first have to be the tradition, right? Wouldn't if you're with this patriarch and the things that you talk about, you are the tradition. So it's running through you, right? It's running through you. It's you. You are the guy, right? But what if the woman said, you got to marry me before we have sex? You don't really want that. The man said he slept in the attic with his feet, and it was a scandal. Y'all got to chill with that modern talk. What are you comparing it to? Because this video is old. He was old then. So the times where the things was changing, he's seen it. Y'all disingenuous, man. I listen to people's content and I scratch my head. Like, what are y'all talking about? Because y'all liars. Because let me tell you something, man. You ain't got to coerce nobody or nothing. All you got to do is come through the door a certain way. And that's what it is. You the man, right? The man is the leader. I'm going off what y'all say. Man is the leader. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. Come through the door with it. Come through the door with the tradition. Not with your mouth, though. Come through the door with the shit, with the law. Right? Tell the woman, nah, I'm not having sex with you until we're married. That's how it is. Take it or leave it. Y'all called Russell Wilson a clown. Him and Sierra waited. So when you talk tradition, tradition is not an image. It's not a look. It's a set of guidelines. It's a way of operating. It's not an image. Is this what y'all say y'all want? And like your OGs tells y'all how he tells women they don't qualify for the men that they want. Well, y'all don't qualify either. Because y'all are not the men that y'all think y'all are. You have to be careful with that modern stuff. You're a modern man, she's a modern woman, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Y'all same. She different, you different. Stop trying to hold him to a thing from the past. Stop trying to hold her to a thing from the past. Y'all the same, and y'all need to have a better conversation because there's other shit going on that is really affecting you. And I'm about to show you another video, right? It's video time. Moving right along. Now you really have to listen to this and follow along. All right. The reason why modern men and modern women are making a mistake is because they outdated it. They're talking about the wrong shit. And we're in a whole different period. So people in the workforce, you'll understand this and love this. So we got like 11 minutes. I don't want to interrupt too much, but pay attention.
When I was out working on the book, I went to Google X and met with Astro Teller, chief astronaut at Google X. Astro's an amazing guy. And I was going over my thesis with him, and he went over to his whiteboard, and he drew this sort of crude little graph. The blue line across the middle, you'll notice it has a slightly positive slope, but it's very gradual. I said, what's that, Astro? He said, that's the average rate at which human beings and societies adapt to change over time. It has a positive slope, but it's gradual. Then he drew that white line. I said, what's that, Astro? He said, that's technology. So at the left end of that line, if you lived in the 11th or 12th century, at the left end of that line, we forget you could go a whole century without your bow and arrow getting better. There was no bow and arrow 2.0 between the 11th and 12th centuries. But then we got Copernicus and Galileo and Da Vinci, as Walter will tell you, and the scientific revolution, and then Jobs and Microsoft and Gates, and the line starts to go due north. And then Astro drew that little diamond there. I said, what's that, Astro? He said, that's where we are. We're at a place now where technology is simply evolving under Moore's law faster than the average human being in society can adapt. Then he went over and got another magic marker, and he drew a little dotted line. I said, what's that, Astro? He said, that's learning faster and governing smarter. And that is the job of governance and education today. How do we lift the slope of the adaptation line to meet technology where it is and where it's going? So my chapter on the workplace is called How We Turn AI into IA. How do we take artificial intelligence and turn it into intelligent assistance, ANCE, intelligent assistance, ANTS, and intelligent algorithms so more people can learn faster and govern smarter? So I'll give you a quick example of each one. My section on intelligent assistance is based on the Human Resources Department at AT&T. I spent a lot of time there. AT&T, 340,000 employees, a company in the most competitive business in the world, telecom, living right next to the supernova, competing every day with Verizon and Deutsche Telekom and Sprint and Verizon and all the others. Good chance that whatever is going on in the Human Resources Department at AT&T is coming to a neighborhood near you.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to ask a question. Is this dude considered an alpha male? The reason why I asked that is because in modern times, this is the conversation that happens of who's alpha and who's not. Right? So within 2 minutes of the video, there was a diagram or a graph, whatever you call it, on the screen, and it was showing the trajectory of technology and what humans are doing, right? So if the technology is moving faster than the human, and the human is behind, but there are people keeping up with the technology, does that make them alpha? Because the modern man and modern woman is having conversation on what is an alpha man and who's an alpha and masculinity and blah, 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 right? But when I look at this guy's mannerisms, y'all tell me that masculinity is a look. It's a look, right? So he doesn't look that hard, right? But is he hard? It's something I want to put on you, right? Because the individual that is finding a way to keep up with technology and the individuals that are getting lapped by technology, who's the alpha?
So what's going on there? So the way their HR department works is that their CEO, Randall Stevenson, begins the year now with a radically transparent speech about where the company's going, what businesses they're going to be in, and what skills you need to be an employee at AT&T that year. Then they put every one of their managers, 110,000 people, on their own in-house LinkedIn system. So I'm an AT&T employee, and I'm there, and they rank the 10 skills you need. I'm making up the number, I don't remember exactly how many, to be a thriving AT&T employee that year, and it turns out I have 7 of the 10, but I'm missing 3. Then they partnered with Sebastian Thrun from Udacity, and he created nano degrees for all 10. Then they came to me and said, Tom, here's the deal. We will give you up to $8,000 a year to take the nano degree courses for the skill sets you're missing. In fact, we heard that you're interested in the Middle East. We'll pay for a course on archaeology as well. In fact, we just created a course with Georgia Tech, $6,000 master's degree online, 1 year. We're in for that as well. Just one condition, Tom. You have to take all these courses at night and on weekends on your own time. If I say to AT&T, I've actually climbed up one too many telephone poles, I'm kind of out of here, that's not how I want to spend my weekends, AT&T now has a wonderful severance package for me. Okay, but I won't be working there much longer. Their social contract with their employees is very simple. If I take those courses and build my skill sets according to the direction they think the company is going, their bargain is they'll offer me the new jobs first, not to go outside. Their social contract with their employees is very simple. You can be a lifelong employee at AT&T, but only if you're a lifelong learner. If you are not ready to be a lifelong learner, you can no longer be a lifelong employee at AT&T, and that is the social contract coming to a neighborhood near you. As my teacher and friend Heather McGowan points out, the days when you could get a 4-year degree or 6-year degree and think you could dine out on it for 30, 35 years, that knowledge, that is so gone in the age of acceleration, which is why Heather says never ask a kid today what you want to be when you grow up. Because unless it's policeman or fireman, it ain't going to be there, okay? Only ask your kid today how you want to be when you grow up.
What conversation is we having out here? That hit different to know that your child might not be able to feed themselves and they got to live at home with you. Like, we really on Clubhouse talking about what? Talking about what? The modern man and the modern woman. The modern man and the modern woman is actually going to extinct themselves very quick if they don't change what the hell they talking about with each other. If I got access to women in a chat room or in groups, right? And they come from all different kind of backgrounds and they making money and they making moves. If this conversation turns into some type of femininity and masculinity and blah, 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 blah. Me as a man, I'm losing. You know why? Because I have no clue how these women make money. I have no clue what they're doing. I don't know what kind of network they got. I don't know what they're into. I don't know about their hobbies. I'm talking about what exactly? And that is the thing that many of you in the chat be doing. You be on Clubhouse and shit. You really be commenting on people's pages and shit in the comment section. What are y'all talking about though? Is that dude making money? Is he making moves? Is he traveling? Does he got some interesting hobbies? Does he know about tech? Anything? All right, no, keep it pushing. There ain't nothing else to talk about at this point. Are you asking your kids what they want to be when they grow up? Like the man said, it's probably not even going to be there. If men and women are talking to each other, modern men and women, you need to ask them what their kids is doing. What does your kids do? What kind of apps are your kids on? Because they might have a nugget for you, but you're never going to get there until y'all address these already implanted ideals y'all have about genders. That's a stupid conversation. I'm sorry, it is. Continue.
Do you want to have an agile learning mindset? Will you be inspired to be a lifelong learner? It's not what, it's about how, which is why another one of my teachers in the book, Marina Gorbis, from the Institute of the Future, says the biggest divide in the world we're going into is not going to be the digital divide. That was so 1990s, okay? The days when upstate New York had no internet and New York City did, or America had it and sub-Saharan Africa didn't. If the digital divide isn't gone, believe me, it's going to be gone in 5 years. And in that world, the most important divide, says Marina, is going to be the motivational divide. Who has the self-motivation to be a lifelong learner long after you've left home and mom and dad are not there to say, Tommy, have you done your homework? And this is a world where the motivational divide will be more important than ever. And I believe that is one of the things roiling our society today, because a lot of people are not built to be lifelong learners.
That's dope. Yeah. All right, cool. Ladies, if you talking to a dude right now, right? I'm talking to the modern woman, right? If you talking to a dude right now and you ask him, what do you do? And he's like, a lifelong learner, right? Before he expounds on that, I guarantee you already got images in your head already. You're probably already shutting him down. You don't even know what he means when he says that. What are you doing? Right? Because remember, we're in the future. So people are going to answer questions differently. They're not going to just say, I'm a fireman or I'm in the army. Right? There was a period where that's all a person did. If you ask a person now, it's going to be kind of nuanced. So what if the man says, I'm a lifelong learner? Are you going to ask him to expound, or are you automatically going to assume, yeah, he ain't got a bag? You don't know what he means by that. I'm a lifelong learner. And he is, right? You need to find out what is the umbrella of that in that learning. And then you're going to see 20 different things. I do this, I do this, I do this, I'm this, I'm that. But you got to get there first. But I already know, right? Because it do be some truth in what these weirdo niggas be talking about. Everything ain't a lie. You know what I'm saying? So if someone says I'm a lifelong learner, a lot of you women, a thing is going to come up in your head. And you're automatic, nope. All right. I offer you this advice. Always know what you're looking at. Because if you don't, you're going to miss something. Better know what you're looking at.
That's what's going on in the workplace of intelligence assistants. What about intelligent assistant? My example for that is Qualcomm, another company I spent a lot of time with. In San Diego, 64 building campus. Many of you may never have heard of Qualcomm. That's because they made the inside of your iPhone. The software and the hardware was not most of it made by Apple. It was made by Qualcomm, which is why Apple is always suing Qualcomm over patents. So 3 years ago, they went to their 64 building campus. They took 6 buildings and they put sensors everywhere. Every door, window, HVAC system, heating system, pipe, computer, light. They put sensors on everything. Then they beamed all that data up to the cloud, up to the supernova, and then they beam it down now onto an iPad with an incredibly user-friendly interface for their janitors. So if I leave my light on when I shouldn't, or my computer bursts, or a pipe goes off over my head, the janitors there know it before I do. They just swipe down to see who to call to fix it or how to fix it themselves. Qualcomm has turned their janitors into maintenance technologists. Their janitors now give tours to foreign visitors. What do you suppose that does for the dignity of a janitor? Because he or she now has an intelligent assistant enabling them to live and learn faster. Last example, intelligent algorithm. My example of that is a partnership between Khan Academy and the College Board, the people who administer the PSAT and SAT college entrance exams. We all know the story. 11th grade, you have to take the PSAT, a practice exam for the SAT to get into Harvard or Yale or wherever we want to go. We also know that over the years, many parents would hire a tutor to goose their kids' verbal or math scores. If you came from a family or neighborhood where people could afford to do that. A completely rigged game. A completely rigged game, because if you came from a family or neighborhood that couldn't afford it, you were at a total disadvantage. So 3 years ago, Sal Khan from Khan Academy partners with the College Board, and they created an intelligent algorithm for free PSAT and SAT prep. The way it works is I take my PSAT 11th grade, I get the results back. They tell me, Tom, you're very good in language and reading. You could have a future in journalism, but you have a problem with math. In fact, specifically, you have a problem with fractions and right angles. It then takes me to a practice site just for fractions and right angles. Exactly my weakness. Waste no time on the strength. If I do well there, it takes me to another site that says you could be an AP Math. Me, an AP Math? No one in my family was an AP Math. No one in my neighborhood was an AP Math. I don't even know what AP Math is. I could be an AP Math. I do well there, it takes me to another site with 180 college scholarships. Last year, 3 million American kids got free PSAT and SAT prep on this intelligent algorithm. So, last example quickly is called Opportunity at Work. This is another intelligent algorithm, very important. We have 32 million people who started college in this country and never finished. Some went 1 year, 2 years, 2.5, 3.5 years, dropped out, went to apply for a job. The boss said, "Where's your BA? I got none, sorry, no job." A total waste of human talent. So intelligent algorithms like Opportunity at Work have emerged. You can go to them now. They will measure what you learned in 1 year, 2, 3, 3.5 years. They will badge it, and they will partner with companies to slot you in. So I profiled a young African-American woman, LaShawna Lewis, who went to Michigan Tech for 3.5 years. She studied computer science, had to drop out after 3.5 years for family reasons, ended up driving a bus to and from a computer school, couldn't make that up, and working on the help desk at a law firm, helping lawyers rediscover their lost passwords. She got connected to Opportunity at Work. There's actually another algorithm like it. They partnered with MasterCard, slotted her in as a systems engineer at MasterCard, and today she is a senior systems engineer at MasterCard. And as LaShawna says in her interview in the last line, and today, I still don't have my BA. That is an intelligent algorithm. Now I'm going to make you all a bet. I'm going to bet none of you have ever heard of any of this. And that's because you were following our last election, where Bernie Sanders' big idea to help people on the road from education to work was to tear down all the big banks. Donald Trump's big idea was to tear down Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton's big idea was to direct you to her website, www.hillaryclinton.com. The fact is, there is massive innovation going on in this country on the pipeline of education to work, so much so I almost thought of writing a book just about that. And no one is telling anybody. In fact, there's so much going on that nothing has to be invented. Whatever you can think of, I will show you somebody's already thought of it and is implementing it. But no one is telling people about it.
You heard that? So while we're beefing, right? While we're the modern man and the modern woman, what is going on in the world? And is that good use of our time? Right? Is that good use of our time for me to dissect the modern woman and to get into it with her about, you know, her role in society? Okay, what next? All right. So say the woman does get in line and say the man does get in line. Now what? I'm gonna say something that is the way of tomorrow is not family. I know that is like a family. That was more of a tribal living, right? Coming from a Neolithic world. But the people of tomorrow, their concept of family is a more global thing, right? They're going to form community around the world, right? By meeting people. Hell, people in their social media groups will be their family, right? What you think is family is not family. And the ideal of getting with people and just making babies. And I'm afraid that the people that are talking to you are so far behind the 8 ball, they have not thought any further than people getting together and getting married. What does people getting together, getting married, what does that look like in the future? Right? What does that even mean? Right? It's not even about having kids at this point. The most important thing that we heard tonight is to be a lifelong learner. Now, in your lifelong learning, if you happen to find a wife or a husband and have kids, that's all part of the process of being a lifelong learner. That comes first. You don't get a wife or a husband, have kids, then be the lifelong learner. You got to be careful with your eyes and ears. These people are trying to grab you and plug you back into an old paradigm that does not exist. They're hanging on for dear life because the world of tomorrow has no place for them. And the only way they can stay alive is if you share the videos, right? If you do petitions to get people canceled, right? It's an old world. It is done. It is gone. It does not even show up in any futuristic data. They're not. There's not a mark. There's not a corporation including them in sales. Nothing. There's no market for them whatsoever. So imagine that. Corporations are not even planning to sell to you in the next 20 years. Don't even matter. Remember, hold on. Remember what I started off showing you at the beginning of this conversation. Remember, because as I'm talking, these numbers are still right. Hold on. As I'm talking, see that? Since we've been talking, the national debt has went up since I've been talking, right? Debt per citizen has went up, right? State debt has went up. Federal tax revenue has went up. Look at this. Medicaid budget has went up. Look, everything since we've been speaking today, look at the numbers. The budget for war has went up. Nothing has went down. The total personal debt, God, 21 trillion. Look at this. Look at this. The median household income right now in the country is 35,000. Right? How's everybody flexing? That's what I want to know. How's everybody lit and living their best life? And I don't know. Look how many people in America food stamps. 43 million people. Where's all this flexing coming from? So everybody's balling though. But it's 43 million people that get food stamps. That's a lot. Okay. But look at the numbers. It's going up though. Look at this. Look at the trade deficit to China. Right? I just want to go back up and just to let you know one thing though. The modern man and the modern woman is not talking about this right here. You see this national debt? This is debt per citizen. So no matter what, if the United States was to default on all of its debt, the citizens of the country will have to bail the government out. And it's my prediction, if you're not in position to bail the government out, it might be considered some type of federal crime. Because someone is going to have to pay this. And the modern woman and the modern man is not even teaching each other shit. They're not even showing each other different websites like this. This is going on right now. Look, usdebtclock.org. This is not fake. This is real. I would take some calls to see what people have to say about what we discussed tonight. Matter of fact, I'll do that. Let me see. I'll take 5 minutes to see if anybody want to call in. Maybe people agree, maybe people disagree. But I'm curious, right? And what I want to know is the modern man, modern woman, what should they be talking about? But what are they talking about? Right? So if you want to call in, there go the number right there. 520-510-3254. Because I'm curious. So if you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, you could call in. We could chop it up. Or let me see. Got the link. I haven't did no calls in a couple weeks, so or you could come on. There's a link in the chat. Give it a couple minutes. If nobody come through, then we'll shut it down and we live to fight another day. But if you want to come through and chop it up, maybe you disagree. Maybe everything I said tonight, you're like, man, that's hogwash. Maybe I'm a simp. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I'm a dusty. I don't know. I don't know. Right? But whatever, hit me up and let's talk. So we give it a We give it a couple minutes. Let me see. Did I show everything? So you have generation alpha. You have generation beta. Right? This is crazy. You got generation alpha. You got generation beta. And X. Yeah, you got curvature. Right? I'll put the cover, if anybody want to read this. Let's see. If you want to come, hold on. Right? Oh, wow, hold on. I'm going to put the curvature link in the chat. So remember, the curvature is a woman's legal status for marriage. So I'm going to put that in the chat. If you want to check that out. There's that. If you want to read up, here is the article for Generation Alpha. Y'all need to see that. Like, for real. Y'all need to read that. What else was it? Here is the link to the US debt clock. Let me see. There goes that. This is, if you want to look at the chart that I was looking at was a PDF chart that had the breakdown. Is very detailed. It would have took me forever to get through it, but here goes that link too in the chat of the chart of the generational differences. That's important, so you understand each generation's behavior, and then of course mixed where they from, stuff like that. But okay, what else? Curvature. Oh, and if you want to finish the video of the man talking, it was some more minutes on there. Here goes that too. All right. So I think I shared all the links. Yeah, I'm gonna shut it down. If you haven't hit that Cash App, what you waiting for, man? All this value, and you still holding on to them little coins? Stop playing with me. Nah, until the next time, that's Coin Gang. Nobody call me. That's a wrap. We're gonna shut it down. If you ain't put your Cash Apps in, $ Kenny Briz. Until the next time, this is Coin Gang. Oh. Before I go. Each generation got specific behaviors, right? Some generations worked hard. Other generations were tech savvy. Everybody do different things. Some people are superheroes and they wear capes. Me, I don't do none of that. I'm just a superhero with waves. Until the next time.
Biggest game, it's like, remember we was all back in high school? Some of you may be still in high school or whatever, but follow me. We had the regular class and then you had honors class. And I feel like Ken Billion's game is nothing but honors class. Everything that you learned in life and been through in life, or whatever he's talking about at that certain time. And, like point of reference, game for guys. Everybody learn game from somebody and this and that, and it's all over the place. But once I listen to Game for Guys, it's like being in an honors class. Ken is a brilliant guy. I still listen to him to this day. Listen to him almost every other day, and I stay studying. And if I look at a video and he's giving us homework, I'm gonna look through that video. I'm gonna write my notes down. I'm gonna do my homework. Then I'm gonna watch the next video. I mean, you just can't get enough of the game and the knowledge that this brother brings to you. He's allowed me to look back into history, my own history. I found out about black people that I never even knew about, black millionaires and people like that. Recently, I learned about the reticular activating system, and that's something that I'm studying up on as we speak. which I plan on reprogramming myself. You know what I'm saying? So overall, the Ken Billions game has done a lot for me. It's allowed me to elevate as a man, as a father. It just allowed me to be more excited about life and not be in the program of being oppressed. And that's one of the main things for me that I have to say that this game has done for me. And I'm so glad that I ran across it.